I'm not rocking out to Taylor Swift. Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. Can you guys talk about that? Maybe Sarah on your own, and then, Kyle and Marcy is like a duet. You mentioned, Marcy, the writing process. Like, you're kind of the lyricist. I'm guessing Kyle maybe writes the actual formation of the musical instruments and whatnot. But what is the writing process? Because, like, I do a very technical job. It's math, it's spreadsheets, it's a little bit of sales and whatnot. The idea of looking at a blank pad of paper and then like, oh, I'm going to come up with something creative. I mean, my mind just completely draws a blank, I'm looking at you guys right now, and if somebody said, hey, write a story about this family or write a poem about this child, I don't have a creative bone in my body. So can you maybe talk to the writing process of coming up with a song, and then we'll talk about it in the confines of writing a song for somebody?
Yeah.
You want me to go first?
Absolutely.
You want to go first,
Jump in, Sarah, for sure.
Well, for me, as a creative myself, I definitely think it's different for everybody. I think that's a question that a lot of people ask is like, how do you write a song? Where do you start? And for me personally, I feel like I always have like a topic or a title in mind, just like a basic idea. And then I kind of build around that. And everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, whether it's like Marcy said, like lyrics or melody, and what they can bring to the table. I think collaboration definitely helps because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses and what allows the song to be created. But honestly, it's different with everybody because everyone has their own strategy. Everyone has their own strengths creatively. Like if I sit down at my piano and write a song, I usually have a topic in mind, and melody is my strong suit personally over lyrics. So just the sound of the song is what comes to my head first. And I kind of just start building off of this idea of what the title of the song is going to be. And I'm sure Kyle and Marcy have a different approach. And it's honestly interesting when you do a co-write and you write with someone else, because they're going to have their own things and what they're strong and weak in, but that's what builds the song and makes it amazing. It's actually really cool to get into a room with someone else and you both collaborate as individuals with your own ideas, your own thoughts, and create something beautiful. And it is a process. And a lot of times it can be fast. A lot of times it can be slow. You can get writer's block a lot and kind of get stuck on things. Yeah.
Right.
So that's really my process. But I'm sure Kyle and Marcy, I don't even know, it's husband and wife.
When you say the melody, like I'm thinking of, some of my favorite tunes. I'm definitely in that rock genre. I feel like the music you loved when you were 15, 13, that's kind of what sticks. So for me, it's like Guns N' Roses, Pearl Jam, listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin with my dad and stuff, Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's like, does, I don't know. Let's see. Does the guitar player like create this riff, put down like 3 minutes of music, quote unquote, and then, it's up to Eddie Vedder to come in and write some lyrics that match the music? Or is it more like people will come up with the words and then tell the band, hey, I'm trying to convey a more slow song about love and heartbreak and da-da-da, and here's my 4 stanzas or whatever you call it, and then go write some music for it. Like, how does it work? Or is it different? I don't know. I am so ignorant when it comes to this.
I think that's a good question to have Kyle answer.
Yeah.
Kyle.
How's that work?
Man, it's interesting that you say, oh man, I'm more of like a math person, spreadsheets and everything like that. And you might be surprised to hear me say it. And maybe this is a hot take, but for me, it's all song math. It's all, it's almost none of it is like straight, pure, out of nothing creation. Everything has a baseline, because what you can do is you can build a structure first and kind of have a template. And then it's more of like a paint by numbers thing. So like you said, guitar player, and then Eddie Vedder comes in kind of scenario. Like, for example, whenever somebody submits a song and they've got their whole story there, we already start with, dumping all the Legos on the floor, and now everything's right there, So from a lyrical perspective, we've also got like a clear direction musically, because let's say it's, country, lighthearted, whatever. The song's more than halfway there already.
Really?
So because then if you think that the cool thing is, man, like every time you do it, it's brand new. And of course there's a lot of just inspiration that goes into each song, because we never want them to be cookie cutter. And I think, each one can feel really unique, but that doesn't mean that you have to reinvent the wheel, because music's been around so long, especially popular music. A chorus is supposed to accomplish a certain thing. A verse should dive really deep and be more like a microscope. And then a chorus should really sum up the feeling of the whole thing. And then the bridge gives you some kind of spin that you maybe didn't think of before. And that makes, puts the third chorus into kind of this new context. And so what I'm saying is, it's a lot more like math than you might imagine. Like, I believe that everybody is creative. I think anybody in every single industry is always problem solving every day. And they're always trying to figure out how to do something in a more efficient way. Yeah. And songwriting is exactly that, just kind of reskinned with more of kind of a creative endeavor. So like, for example, maybe you do is just start strumming some chords on the guitar, and then you have a progression. And then kind of a popular Lennon-McCartney rule is just make all the sections different. You know what I mean? So we're like really, really dense, like lyrics, maybe, and then so when you finally get to the chorus, just make it really spaced out. And it doesn't matter. There's no rules. As long as you make each section feel fresh, you win. So it's less intimidating, I think, than people think.
I was going to say too, Scott, that you might be surprised, because a lot of people don't use even real instruments. Like sometimes, like with pop music, even it could just be, what's the word for that, Kyle?
Just like a track, just synths like and kind of programmed.
A track with instruments where you can kind of create the instruments, and they're not actually like a live guitar or a live piano and things like that. Then other people track real instruments. But I think for the custom song aspect of it, sometimes it's easier if you have the track and those instruments in like Logic as a program, for instance, things that allows them, to create these songs. But then also with the custom songs, like he was saying, we're kind of giving them a template of a place to start, right? So they have, the style of music, they have the story, they have, if they, want it to be upbeat or happy. And so that kind of allows them to create something out of nothing.
Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple of years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. What's it like having to write lyrics under a time constraint? Because obviously I put in an order, I pay my money. You guys kind of guarantee that it's back in a certain amount of time. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I especially can't imagine being creative under a time crunch. And one of the things I most appreciated about the lyrics you wrote is like, it didn't feel forced. Like, all right, I got to sneak in Gabriel's name in there. I got to sneak in Alina's name in there. It felt like, oh, this is just like a flowy song she wrote about her own family that she's kind of had meandering in the back of her mind for 6 months, right? It didn't feel like, oh, we've got 48 hours to get this song out. And I was like, quite frankly, I was shocked when I got the email delivery, because I'm like, yeah, they say it's going to be done in a week. No chance. I'll find this in 2 months. So what's that process of like being creative under a time crunch?
Sometimes time crunches can help the creative process. Not always, but sometimes it does. But I will say, like, I do think that the details that customers want in their songs, it actually almost writes itself. So like,
spoken like a true artist, not just writes itself. I'm so awesome. It just comes to me.
Well, and just there's always a new way to say something too. And so, like, there's a new way to say, there's always a fresh way to say, I've been married to you for 10 years and I still love you and I'm still going to choose you,
Right.
So you just kind of have to choose kind of an angle, choose like get on that page first. I would say, what angle am I going to go with, and then just nail into that, because sometimes it can be very vague as far as love songs, anniversaries, and all those things. But you just kind of have to turn that twist. And I feel like as far as the time crunch, you just I don't know, Kyle, maybe you can speak more into this, but you just kind of have to really put your brain cells together and like try to make it happen within that time frame. But really it's kind of, I feel like you just go for that angle.
I love
That's what I would say first. What would you say?
I would say,
Kyle?
Scott, that I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like I'm just hearing your experience. Just because I feel like this is why we've been very strategic with who we let on the roster and keeping the roster more intimate as opposed to opening it up to everybody. Because the thing that we want to be set apart from the other companies is we want to be a premium product. We want to offer professional quality songs. We don't want them to be cheesy. We want them to be heartfelt, meaningful. And I'm really proud to say that honestly, every song that we've done has delivered that.
Yeah.
And I think people notice that, and they notice the difference. They're like, oh, this feels like they've been working on this for a month or two,
Totally.
right? Like it feels like me. It's like they caught what I was wanting to say to my spouse. And so that's one of the things that we really look for, is not only a professional artist, but the quality of the recording and their production strength and the way that they tell the story, because we don't want to just read the words off of the document that they submit on our site. You know, we want to create a story. And Kyle, I'm sure you can speak more to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you said something really important there, which is not to just copy paste the details and kind of make statements. I've found that the songs that move me the most aren't usually just kind of retelling of facts. You know, usually there's some kind of a narrative, something that kind of pulls you close and feels like a real story and a real conversation of, you know, maybe something somebody went through. And so some of the basics are, you know, just painting a little imagery. Even though it's a custom song, for me, I treat it the same way as I would write any other song. I don't separate the two. I take it and say, okay, well, how do we put somebody in the room right away in the first line or two? And then how do we sum up the feeling in the chorus? And if you kind of go by those things, and then you kind of treat the details almost as a bonus, you know, where you're kind of mentioning them along the way, kind of pointing to them as you drive by them, instead of like, I don't know, hopscotch across the river from detail to detail. Right. It can get a little mundane. And so, and honestly, it's a lot more fun as a writer too. It might take a little more horsepower to do that, but it's always worthwhile, because then it feels like it's not necessarily like its own genre, to use like the Christian music example, you know. In a perfect world, we want it to feel like something that's authentic, that we would release on Spotify, you know. And every once in a while there's songs, you know, that come out and we're like, well, I can't say, you know, June 8th, 1967, but other than that, you know, really love this chorus. It really feels like us. And that's our goal, I think, when we're kind of going through.
So when you release my song publicly, do I get like some royalties when you guys are rich and famous? Is that how
We'll
it works?
Negotiate that after we stop the recording. Yeah.
Perfect. You get the email asking for the song to be created, and then boom, you guys do what?
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. The first thing I do is I'll copy all the info and I'll pull it into Evernote. And honestly, I'm like a big checklist guy, and because I just love like seeing things get done, checked off a list. So every line, every single thing that needs to be included in the song, I'll put a check mark next to it. Because then when you check it off on Evernote, it'll strike through the thing. And I'm like, yes, accomplishment. And so I just like break it down that way until everything's crossed through. And then we'll either like start building a track or just strumming on a guitar or something like that. In the vein of kind of the musical preference. And then from there, usually I'll start with a title. So that's one thing that helps to kind of shoot the trajectory more into song world instead of like fact listing world, is find something interesting that the customer said. And I always like to, if I can, like include it verbatim. Like if they said something really cool that you can that seems really sincere and it's also like a great image, just build the whole song around that. That way it feels more like a country song or something, you know?
Right.
And I use that term like just in the songwriting sense, because country is so great about taking one thing and then every lyric kind of bows down to that concept. You know what I mean? And so once you have the title, to be honest with you, I 9 times out of 10 will just write the song straight down. Verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, chorus. And I'll try to change the lyrics of the later choruses just slightly, but repeat the chorus. And then that's pretty much it. Once the whole thing is written, what I'll do that I haven't seen anybody else do, but I just picked it up and started doing it. Now I do it. I was in a a Christian writer session yesterday for a CCM artist. And I did this same thing. What I'll do is I'll kind of bold where the lyrics are going to have the chord changes on them, so that when I go back to record it, it's kind of shorthand where I can know exactly where the stresses were without doing a full chord chart. And then once the lyrics are written,
then getting the track, I think.
Then you just track it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You track the music.
Yeah.
And then I'll do my lead vocal first, and then Marcy will come and do her vocal on top of it, which honestly is harder because I've been with the song from the beginning.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so if it's an instance where I was doing more of the writing or versus Marcy doing more of the writing, then she'll have to come in cold. You know, maybe she was watching Leland or something, and then she'll have to come in and essentially learn the song, because it's harder when you're doing harmonies, because you have to learn the melody and then build a harmony part on it kind of in real time. And she's really good at that. She's better at that than I am.
Because you've been doing it. I've been doing it for so long.
So can you explain that part to me, Marcy, for people like myself and all my listeners who are, you know, I can't remember if left brain or right brain is the analytic. What is the melody versus the chorus versus the bridge? Like what are those things, and why are you better at one and Kyle's better at the other? Like it just seems to me like, oh, you're writing a song. Like shouldn't you either be good or not? Can you explain those different pieces of the song?
Well, the chorus is always going to be the thing that people remember.
Okay.
I believe. So you have to hit the chorus home. And you honestly, a lot of times in songwriting, you build the song around that chorus. Yeah. But that's going to be what the song is about. And then the hook at the very end is the title pretty much every time almost.
Got it.
But so for anyone, you know, and then bridge, I'm such a bridge person. I love a good bridge. It's just like, it just knocks it out of the park. Like, you know, for me, every time it's like, oh, yep, that's it. And then you just fall in love with the song almost 10 times more after listening to a bridge. That's my opinion.
So wait, so just so I get this right, when you're thinking of chorus, you're thinking of the Beatles, "She Loves You," yeah, and they repeat that, right? Or
Great
like
example.
"Sweet Child of Mine," obviously "Sweet Child of Mine" is the chorus, because it's over and over again. That's the part you remember from the song.
Exactly, that is the part you remember the most.
Okay.
And honestly, you need to make it as catchy as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So that it does, you will be able to sing it out of the blue no matter where you are.
Right.
So as far as like the parts though, melody, harmony, how that kind of works with us. I feel like, I don't know, harmony is kind of just came so naturally to me. I mean, not that Kyle isn't good at it either, but it's just like, I don't know.
Like some people have an ear for it, I feel like. And just
Yes.
You don't have to be modest. You can tell me that you're way better than your husband at everything. It's fine.
You're amazing.
Just
No. Trust me, I am not. Like, honestly, Kyle does so much.
So the harmony, is that lyrics or is that the sound of the music? Like, what is the harmony?
So the harmony, well, it's both, really.
Okay.
Let's use your example. So she loves you, yeah. Right. So that's your melody. So
you want me
to say 1, 2, harmony, go. She loves you, yeah. There you go.
Got it.
So it's
like,
a vocal part that's stacked
part
on top. That's really close to the melody, but it's
well
different
done, guys.
notes, and it just
yes.
I just put her on the spot right there. So there's case in
Awesome.
point.
We just got a
No,
copyright violation, but that's fine. You guys are awesome.
I know,
Sorry.
honestly.
No, this is
but
awesome.
it really it adds so much more vocal tones to the song. I love harmony. I think almost every song just adds so much more if there's an extra part added somewhere, and it just I think it just lifts it up a lot more. So I love singing the other parts too. It makes it a lot more fun for me. I love singing melody too. Kyle's really got I feel like he's got like a stronger voice than I do, like volume wise. And so I tend to be like, okay, you need to belt that melody out so that it's really heard.
Yeah.
And I'll sing the harmony to it, and but it'll still sound almost like one voice.
Yeah.
In a sense, that to me is how a duo should probably sound, is like, yes, you're a duo, but you also are one voice together. Even though you're singing two different parts.
Yeah, buddy.
So
Sorry.
I'll let you. Yeah. Oh, he wants to get to the bridge. So I'll tell me about all the horrible things about the music industry, because I can only imagine it's as abusive as all other entertainment industries. I was talking to an artist the other day privately, and he's like, dude, you can have millions of plays on Spotify and make like $1,000. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds horrible. So how do musicians who are up and coming, how do they make money these days? I mean, I imagine the reason U2 and Guns N' Roses and the Rolling Stones are still touring is because that's the only way to make money in the modern music ecosystem. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe they just love playing music still at 60
You're right
years
on
old.
with that.
Okay. So tell me the ins and outs of the music industry in 5 minutes.
Go.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'll take this one.
Oh yeah,
you,
Kyle.
I have kind of a different, I have a different perspective on that maybe than some artists. I think a lot of people, and my perspective has even changed over the last 4 years. Because I came fresh out of music school, just, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, just thinking, oh man, I just got to meet that one person and I just got to write the right song. And it's not true. You have to build a business, and you have to have a client acquisition system.
Yeah.
And you have to sell people things, because tickets are things.
Yeah.
Tickets are just a merchandise item. You're, at the end of the day, as a musician, you're a service provider. And I think people forget that. And that's when they get taken advantage of. And that's probably when they start to tell horror stories.
Right.
Because you don't get what you deserve as a musician. You get what you negotiate. And if you have, and it's a business truth.
Say that again.
So you as a person, as a musician, and as a business owner, and life in general, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate, right? I learned that really quickly, being in a couple of deals that were not in my favor, that cost me thousands of dollars to get out of. It was a very poignant memory that caused me to think twice about who I work with. Right. And it's the artists that are thinking somebody is going to swoop in and save the day. These are the people that get taken advantage of, versus it's people who break everything down and say, hey, my revenue is coming from 10 different sources. Here's everything to the cent of where my money is coming in. Here's how all of my music, which is property, by the way, here's all my intellectual property. I'm going to treat each of them like a rental house. I'm going to treat each of them like a digital asset that is collecting money from me passively on the side. Because then all of a sudden it's not just, oh man, like I have millions of streams and I'm not making money from Spotify. How else are you monetizing your music? If you own that, and if you own the masters, or a large percentage of the masters, like we do for our music, we have a team of people that allow us to create music kind of en masse, kind of like a machine, and we own the masters, right? And so then we can go and we can place that for sync, and Spotify should be part of it. But then also you're growing an email list, you're making sales offers to your customers every single month. It's basic digital marketing. Like, it's probably very similar to how you guys run the business for Songbird City. I'm a strong proponent for independent artists should be treating their career the same as it's a digital e-commerce business.
Wow.
Because then you're in control. You're not waiting for an A&R to come to your show, which by the way, they don't do anymore. If they're going to sign you, it's because it's insurance against the possibility that you might blow up, because then they don't want you with one of the other two majors.
Right.
They just want to, you have to build yourself. So if that's the truth, you might as well take a little longer and own the whole pie and own all of the revenue that's created. It's, hope marketing is the reason so many artists are kind of just upset about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is they have this vague notion of I should get paid from somewhere. Maybe, I guess it's only Spotify, or they take the other approach where, I guess the only thing I can do is grind 300 dates a year of touring, which some people enjoy that. I particularly don't. I want to do like 50 to 100 dates max, because we want to take our kids on the road. So it leaves you with the problem of how am I going to make up the rest of that revenue? And until artists want to face that problem head on, they're always going to be just kind of venting about how, the music vision, because it's not the way it was.
Did you learn? Oh, sorry. Did you learn any of that in music school, or are they just doing the creative side and the music side, and then you got to teach yourself business?
Well, if we were going to music school now, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe they would teach on some of this stuff. But at that time, no, it's like, hey, here's how hit songwriters wrote songs. Here's how you record a great product if you're an audio major. Here's how you put on a show. Like for our senior recital, we had to put on an entire show, write everything, score everything out. Like it was very heavy on the performance side.
Right.
And now granted, the elephant in the room is the song has to be good and the artist has to be good. Like that should be a given, but it's not enough. That's the problem. We weren't taught how to make money.
Those are table stakes, right? There's some guy from Jersey toiling away at 70 years old, still playing coffee shops, who could have been Bruce Springsteen. But he didn't grow his own business. He didn't treat it like an e-commerce business, which I know that was a different time when Bruce Springsteen was coming up, but I'm just using that as a parallel. I love what you said, that we don't, as human beings, as business people, we don't get what we deserve. We get what we negotiate, or we get what we work for. So I love this concept of, you're like, I got to build an email list, man. You want to sell stuff? Email list is still the way to do it. So Sarah, what do you have to add on to that? Because I thought that was super insightful. Right on. That's going to be a clip, Kyle. But what do you have to add on to that, Sarah?
I mean, gosh, for one, like what a great attitude to have about it, right? Because no one's going to be, oh my gosh, my dog is barking. Who's going to actually
hear it? Can't hear it.
Can't hear you. Good.
Oh, good. Okay. Who's going to be a bigger advocate for you than yourself, right? With anything in life, as a musician, as an artist, as a business owner, like you're going to be your biggest champion. But I think having the right perspective and attitude about it, like what Kyle said, like it's more than just, oh, Spotify's not paying me enough, or I'm doing this. Like you really have to work for what you love. And as a musician, as an artist, you have to have thick skin. You have to persevere. You have to really believe in your product, believe in yourself, and also have your identity, not just in what you're doing. I think that's really important to keep you grounded. Is this isn't my everything. This isn't who I am as a person as a whole, like family, like having other things, God, whatever that looks like. But I just think perspective is everything in life in general. But as an artist and as a musician, I think for you to be happy and enjoy what you're doing long-term is doing like what Kyle said. And also just understanding that, it's not going to happen overnight, understanding that it's a journey and it's a process. And, I think having good people in your corner is huge as well. But, you've got to keep the fire and the passion for it alive. And I think when you have the right perspective and the right attitude about that, and you don't just have an attitude of like, oh, I deserve this, or I've earned this, or, I'm this good, because everybody's good. Everybody's talented.
That's a good word, Sarah.
But honestly, I think the people that make it and the people that stick with it are the people that have the right people in their corner, have the right perspective and the right attitude. Because you could be a victim all day long, and, but it's the people that stick with it and have the right attitude that they're going to see the win.
I love that.
That was so good.
Yeah. Attitude is key.
It's key. It's not to say that it's not hard. I mean, I've been very vocal about how I've got burnt out as an artist and as a songwriter, but also because it was only about me, right? Like I was pursuing something just for me. And I think when you can bring other people on the journey and you make it about other people too, it's more rewarding.
Absolutely.